What Derek displayed was not just the strength to bear the pain, not just the determination to continue till the end, and the commitment to not lose and fall out, but to continue completing the race. He didn't learn it overnight. Derek's father, probably his teacher, and his school, when he was young, would have nurtured this into him right from the early years. Dr. Saab said, maximum learning happens in the first 5 years of a child's life. It is true. And that's where early years leadership and the concept begins. Now, this is no forum where all of you are leaders of your respective organizations, departments, and institutions. Can you go back, please? Yeah. This is no forum to teach leadership or leadership traits. We all know them. There are books and volumes and libraries full of what leadership is all about and what leadership traits are all about, whether it is being visionary, supportive, decisive, delegation, whether it is about ethics, honesty, whether it is about strength, whether it is about bravery, honesty. It's a big maze, and there are different types of leadership, etc., etc. So this is not a workshop to learn leadership. What we are going to do is we are going to address 3 important questions. And those are, first, do little children display leadership in early years? What is to be identified in case they do? And what is the plan to nurture that leadership? I'm going to take you to the question number 1, and that is, do children display leadership in early years? Let's see a small video.
Can you see the leader in me? Can you see the leader in me? Can you see the leader in me?
Mother had an extremely close relationship with young Bill. She even took him with her when she volunteered as a lecturer in Seattle schools. Soon her precocious son would read the World Book Encyclopedia from A to Z.
We'd lose him sometime for hours at a time, and when I would ask, "What are you doing?" he'd say, "I'm thinking, Mother."
मगरमच्छ से लड़ते हुए वो मंदिर तक पहुंचा और ध्वज बदल दिया। यहीं से शुरू होती है नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी की कहानी।
Heroes don't necessarily have to be big. They come in all sizes and all ages.
All it takes is one spark to start a fire. And I want each and every one of you to be that spark for all the children around the world who need your help.
My name is Bilal Raj, and I am 11 years old. For 7 years, I have been working towards helping those in need all over the world. From selling clementines in my neighborhood to working with UNICEF to raise millions of dollars.
Always know, you are never too small to make a difference.
5-year-old Chloe Olson, confronted with her mother violently choking on a potato chip, little Chloe calmly called 911 and began a conversation where she thought she was speaking with her dad. Chloe was straight to the point and said, "Daddy, Mommy's choking." The dispatcher told her to open her house's front door, and
15-year-old Tamar Boggs and an unidentified friend chased the car on their bikes for 15 minutes. Realizing he was being followed, the driver gave up and let the girl go.
An's orphanage, and the Mumbai flood was quickly filling inside. The courageous 13-year-old knew she couldn't watch the kids who called her sister drown, so she jumped headfirst into the deep waters. Against all odds, she successfully ferried 40 helpless children to higher grounds. An was a suicide bomber with a vest full of live explosives. The suspicious 15-year-old took no chances and tackled the man in front of his school's gate. Aitazaz Hassan bravely gave the ultimate sacrifice when the bomber detonated his jacket during the brawl. This teen single-handedly saved the lives of an entire school of children. By earthquake with a 9.3 magnitude caused one of the most deadly tsunamis to ever hit the Asian coast. Tilly Smith was a middle schooler that was vacationing in Thailand with her family just moments before the chaos of Mother Nature hit. Luckily, the 10-year-old girl had been paying attention in class to a lecture just weeks before about tsunamis. Tilly Smith was not only able to recognize the signs from her geography class, but also convinced her family and 100 other tourists to retreat to safety. Tilly Smith's quick thinking saved over 100 people from being added to the 230,000 souls lost. Tyler Moon was hurt and struggling to breathe when he crawled through 2 kilometers of Australian bushland to find help for his dying father. The two had been riding quad bikes on the far edge of the family property when it flipped and crushed them underneath. Tyler was only 7, but the small boy managed to crawl home to his mother with 9 broken ribs and a collapsed lung. He said, quote, "Daddy told me to tell you he needs an ambulance."
Ill and tired for weeks, Zach was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, a fast-growing cancer of the white blood cells. Zach's treatments were expensive.
It would be cool if we could make a whole bunch of these and sell them.
He sold more than 20, earning a couple of $100s.
You raised $200? That's a lot of money. Yeah, and who did you give it to?
Zach.
Vincent also found out that Zach might lose his hair because of the chemotherapy treatments.
I cut it off.
You cut off your hair? How come?
To make Zach feel like he's not the only one without any hair.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are probably one of the million examples you would just Google and you would find of little children from early years to the middle primary years who would have displayed leadership in one form or the other. A couple of days back, I was at the ABP National Award ceremony in Delhi, and there was this 7-year-old girl named Disha, who started at 5 years of age to a no smoking campaign. She would go on the streets, and anyone who would she would find smoking, she would speak to that person, note down his number, and follow up almost every single weekend and every birthday and every New Year. And in 2 years' time, she has testimonials of 250 men and women who have stopped smoking. Now all this, as I said, it doesn't happen just like that. Every child has a trait of leadership in him or her. As I said, I'm the chair of Special Olympics Bharat. I have 10 lakhs, that is 1 million athletes with intellectual disabilities with me, and 67,000 coaches who are nurturing them. And believe me, when these children with mental disabilities are exposed to certain things in the field, like Parminder said, that's what gets the thing out of them. You find that even amongst themselves, despite they being in the spectrum of autism and dyslexia and other intellectual disabilities, they tend to show leadership traits. One tends to lead a group forward on the field. And that's what proves that leadership traits, if seen and nurtured in early years, would lead them to be great leaders in the future. We are closely associated, I'm on the board of TGELF, the Global Education Leadership Foundation by KIMCAS, and there you see every year 400 young leaders all across the world, come up and speak. And the young boys and girls, some of them got together and wrote a constitution for their school and how to execute it, a code of conduct, a code of ethics. So these things come up when you nurture them, you breed them in early years. Let's go on to the next slide, please. Next one. Yeah. How do we identify leadership qualities in early years? There's no formula here. What we need to see is the desire to be challenged, for example. Do they reason out critically and motivate others? Do they tolerate ambiguity? Do they have flexibility in their thoughts and actions? Do they express? Are they communicators? Are they honest? Are they ethical? Do they take initiatives? Now these all things we know. All of you are educators here, and most of you know more about early years education than me. We have people here with 525 schools all over the Asia Pacific. You would all know that various forums and various theaters which happen inside a school, be it a classroom theater or a playfield theater or a swimming pool theater or an actual stage in an auditorium, you have so many opportunities to identify these traits. And once you identify these traits, you would know that there is something in this child which brings in a trait of a leader. And trust me, no sooner than that, you will start seeing more of those traits. And as you nurture them, the child grows up to be a fine human being, a leader. This was the answer to the second question. The third question was, can you move on please? What is the plan? So this is all fine, that yes, there is leadership displayed in early years. It is portrayed in the early years. What do we look for? All right, we know that. But then do you have a plan for early years leadership? So there are two aspects. It's a very vast subject. So my thought for today for all of you would be a two-pronged plan. One is making leadership a part of curriculum in the early years. Again, I quote a few speakers who spoke before me, that unless you formalize something, again going back to Edu Sports, he said, why would you not have X number of periods in a week for sports? Maybe if it is 30% of your tuition fee, so why not attribute that much of money or time or effort? So similarly, if you just go out of this workshop and say, oh yes, you know, we must look out for leadership traits and we must have a plan and we'll do a workshop, etc., it's not enough. At the end of it, you need to have, when you make your yearly calendar, you have your ERIC, you make your curriculum, somewhere put in leadership. The moment you formalize that you want to have earlier leaderships in your curriculum, rest all will follow. The best of your teachers and your coordinators would come up with plans in your calendar, be it a workshop or be it a little trait or a class or an interactive session, or taking help from outside if required to do that. The second important part is intense professional development of teachers in leadership. Now, teachers are teachers. They are leaders too. They are leaders for our children. They are the idols of our children. So, once teachers go through an intense professional development plan for that year, that's what school owners and principals must build in through the year, they would know the nitty-gritties of identification of leadership traits. What are the leadership traits? What are the real leadership traits? What kind of leadership is displayed by little children? And once they get professionally developed into that, they would be able to apply that into their classroom because it is already a part of the curriculum. Within 20 odd minutes which Anil has given me, this is probably the maximum I could say or speak. But I have one last parting video before I answer any questions. That's a very nice video which portrays how a child and a child's leadership can actually change an entire society.
सर आपके लिए उस पार कार का इंतजाम किया है सर आइए सर एक चल
तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले, तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले, तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले, तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले। पाँव रखो और चलो अकड़ के चलो उफक पे पाँव रखो और चलो अकड़ के चलो फलक पकड़ के उठो और हवा पकड़ के चलो फलक पकड़ के उठो और हवा पकड़ के चलो तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले 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 हिंदुस्तान चले चलो
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The house is open for any questions which you would have.
Thank you, Mr. Saini, for that wonderful, very emotional, well-delivered speech on leadership in early child years. This is a challenge always, and it's a very, very debatable topic amongst educators, leadership in early childhood. We always talk of nature versus nurture, right? I think that's a very hot topic which everybody debates. I think, time and time has proved that children are born leaders, which is nature. It is what is lacking in the leadership skills is the nurture. And as he has rightly pointed out, I think it is the teachers who need to feel positive about themselves, become wonderful leaders so that I can bring in the leadership qualities in my child. I think we would conclude there, and any questions open, I think we would invite audience.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, and I'm glad that you said
Can we
that.
request Mr. Parminder Gill from Edu Sports to felicitate Mr. Karthik Seni? Mr. Seni, we really enjoyed the entire the keynote's speech, and I think a big round of applause to you.
Another interesting topic coming up, how to make classroom teaching interesting. I'm so sorry. The next one is importance of innovative spaces in 21st century education. This is again in continuation with so many topics that we spoke in the morning. We spoke about play, right? The importance of play, how do we bring in play? Is there a space crunch? Is that the reason why children are not playing outside? We spoke about leadership and how leadership actually comes as a result, again using, being outside. Children learn leadership qualities when they are playing outside. So in continuation with that, we have, again talking of innovative spaces, we welcome Mr. Sri Raghavan to be on the stage, please. I will just have a small brief introduction. He has over 10 years of experience in education and community services. The founder and director of Number Nagar, his achievements in education are many and encompass a diverse cross-section of lectures and public addresses at prestigious educational institutions. We welcome Mr. Raghavan on the stage.
Good morning, one and all. Can I have the slides, please? Okay. Anyway, I had come with a proper prepared deck of slides and also a lot of points around that. But I think quite a lot of inspiration from the earlier speakers and also a good amount of discussion. Before that, this particular idea that I'm going to present to you, I'm sure is not very new, but I think somebody has to open the Pandora's box. So I'm probably going to open this. Let's hope that we will have some wonderful discussion and certain points to take home today. That's the whole idea of this particular address that I'm planning. Okay. The topic that I have chosen is importance of innovative spaces in 21st century education. I think we can remove the 21st century part and look at the relevance to education itself. It's kind of applied across to all age groups, whether it's early childhood education or whether it's a primary education or the high school or even the undergrad, the most important thing that probably all of us have it at the back of our mind, I think every speaker has tried to address that one way or the other, and also the point that you introduced, which is nature versus nurture. All of that has to do with space. So typically, what I wanted to convey with the first image, of course, is to have some openness. Okay, you can see this is something that I've always worried about, the schooling. I've interacted with more than 200 schools in the last 1.5 years. Like many speakers in the early conferences also have been mentioning about it, they say that school and jail actually run parallel in terms of their process. They both function at the ring of a bell. You know, we treat children like prisoners. Definitely we treat children like prisoners once they get into the class 1, class 2. That's where I'm always worried about what are we doing with our education system. Because we are educationists here, and I'm sure we are going to discuss wonderful points, and I'm sure you already have fantastic points. But trust me, none of that is getting implemented. Because if it was somewhere or the other, we would have started to see the change. We would be discussing something else. We would still not be discussing the 1947 issue. We are still discussing those issues today in education. We are discussing points that probably Jawaharlal Nehru was thinking those days. Okay, as the first Prime Minister or maybe the first Education Minister of the country, they would have the problems on how do we educate these children. I think we are still discussing the same problem. How are we, trying to educate our children today? What are the things we need to bring into the classroom? What are the new technologies we need to bring in? So many things happening in the research world. How do I update my children on that? How do I update my classroom on that? So probably today's talk is going to have a small take on that and see what we are already doing and how we could further it so that we could see the results quickly. Because we are looking at leadership. I mean, I'll probably take from your talk there, early childhood leadership. Definitely, I'm sure there are a lot of kids who show a lot of leadership. And by the time they come to 10th, 12th, or even into their undergrad, we've already focused them onto certain things and say, okay, dude, forget about all these leadership talks and other things. It's not meant for you. You start earning your bread and butter for your family, and that's how it works. Why am I saying that is, I've been through that torture. I know that. I know the pain of being a leader in the early days and then want to do something on your own, then how the society treats you. I go talk to a school management and they say, oh, you guys all have big ideas. I don't think that's implementable. That's the problem. So the moment you have wonderful ideas, you need to have a space. And in 21st century, that's what we need. We need innovative spaces. I'm not talking about a lab or I'm not talking about one center. I'm talking about the entire environment when I say space. Okay? Can we go to the next slide? All right. So this is something that is my take on the Bloom's taxonomy, where everybody talks about it. You tell an educationist and they know that, oh, we know Bloom's, we do Bloom's. But what you don't understand about Bloom's is the last part of the pyramid. That cannot be done as a progression. Creating, synthesizing. They come after you have done the first 3 steps properly. And all of us love the videos. Honestly, tell me, I mean, with the hand on my heart, I'm telling you, every single video that we watched, that you showed, we loved them because they were at the bottom of the pyramid. They were inspirational. And trust me on this, today in our education system, that's missing. We don't have inspiration. Teacher is not inspiring the child in the classroom. Why? Because the teacher is not inspired to come to school. There was a wonderful story that one of my teachers told me, that a child was actually cribbing on the bed, saying that I don't want to go. I'm sure most of you have heard this. I don't want to go to school today. And then the mother is kind of coaxing the child, saying that, get up, you can't say that. You're the principal of the school. You have to go. Yeah? That's how we see some of the problems today in education. Okay? It's not about the policy. It's not about what the teacher is delivering. The problem is there. Fundamentally, it's there. We are not inspiring children. And all these videos, I'm sure when you play it to the parent, they're going to feel great, but they wouldn't want to see their child there. Okay, that is why Nirma is saying it's okay to get dirty. We are there for you to wash the clothes. Definitely, good. That's a good idea. But trust me on this, 99% of the population is lacking that inspiration. They always look up to something which is easy and something that can be done, where they feel that, yes, this is something that I can do. This is my bread and butter. Don't touch me on this. That's the reason why even in preschools, we have so much of resistance that comes from parents. I have seen it with my own sister, I can tell you that. When we were spinsters and bachelors running around doing our master's degree, she said, I'm not going to send my child to school. I've had the torture enough. And I saw her when she had her first child, she was there standing in the queue waiting to get the application form. Why? Because that's simple peer pressure. I'm not saying that she should not have done it, but I'm saying that that's exactly how everybody gets into the whirlpool. All of that happens because somewhere we lack that inspiration. Without inspiration, rest of the things, they're not going to work. Trust me on this. You need to have your school as a domain of inspiration. If that is not there, your teachers won't come to school well prepared, your staff, non-teaching staff, they're not motivated to be there. They're there because every month you're giving them salary. That's the point. That's the problem that all of us are struggling. We don't want to talk about it, but I'm open about it. I know that's the problem in India today, that we only treat teaching as a job. It's not an inspiration. Teachers don't want to inspire their children. Why? Because it's not well paid for us. There are some schools which are really paying good, but I know I consult with schools in Punjab and they pay 5,000 and 6,000 for a teacher. Honestly, 5,000, 6,000 for a teacher per month. I would not have taken up teaching as a job at all. For me, teaching is not a job. It inspired me to get into this domain and I've come there. But how many of them are looking at it as an inspiration? We can debate about this for the whole day. I think we can have a conference on inspiration itself. Now, if we can find a way, I'm not saying I have a way, I'm just saying if we can find a way to keep them inspired is when the next level happens. Once I'm inspired, I'm in a space is when I can improvise on the ideas that I already have. There are wonderful ideas that you guys have. There are a lot of new schools that have come in, new school of thoughts. There are foundations that have come up with wonderful ideas. That can go through the improvisation process. Only then you can expect your team, your children to go to the next level, which is innovation. The last part, that's invention. That, again, nature versus nurture, that debate is there. Who's the inventor? Who can do all that kind of stuff? When I mean invention, I'm not talking about scientific inventions. I'm talking about inventing new ways, bringing in new methods of thinking, new ideas of thinking, new ideas of living, bringing in new philosophy for life. I don't think we should start focusing on that because that outcome comes if we can do the three things properly. Can we go to the next slide, please? And where I would like to focus today is that the first bottom two is a huge, that's the bottom of the pyramid, needs loads and loads of work. Please think about this. You need to have enormous amount of work that you need to put in to get the first two things done in your school. Whatever levels you're teaching, whether it's the preschool, whether it's early childhood we are looking at or primary education, a lot of work needs to be done on how do I take my children from inspiration to work on their own to get to improvisation. They need to work on what they already know and then start developing, making things better for themselves. Once they start doing it is when innovation is the key. As a school, if I look at it, most of you are working on incremental innovation. And no doubt about it, you have been successful in bringing in certain changes into your school processes, systems, or even the teaching methodologies and all that. But what is needed is disruptive innovation. Along with incremental innovation, every 5 years or 6 years, you need to have a disruptive innovation, something that actually questions what you fundamentally believed in the beginning. Otherwise, what happens is most of the time, you are doing what you were doing 5 years ago and expecting the results to be different, trust me, it's not going to be different. And these kind of conferences gets you to talk to people who are thinking in that line. That's where disruptive innovation comes in. Now, why is disruptive innovation so important to a school? And why partnering with somebody is important to school is something that people taught you in 8th grade. I'm not joking. You already know that. Newton's first law of motion. Anybody here can tell me what Newton's first law of motion is? Okay, that's one of the Newton's laws. No, see, that's where I'm coming to. We've already numbered them 1, 2, 3. Newton never did that. Trust me on that. I have a PhD in physics, so I know what it is. Okay, one of the laws of Newton's on inertia. Let me give you the law of inertia. If you could just remember that, for the sake of everyone, I'm going to say, law of inertia states that any body, or every body you can say, stays in the state of rest or motion until and unless it's disturbed by an external unbalanced force. So most of the speakers here are actually unbalanced, and that's why we are able to bring in the external force. I'm telling you that because we, as educationists, we are crazy. We are crazy about bringing in change in children's life. We are eccentric people. We think out of the box. Most of us here think of disruptive innovation. We don't do it because of the problem that all of us have discussed, parent. They don't allow you to go and think freely for your school and do stuff on your own. Very simple thing. I asked one of the schools to say, please don't give homework till grade 3. Very next day, we had 15 parents in the principal's office screaming their throat out. Because they want their children to simply fill up the books, notes corrected, teacher has to put all the red marks, send the book home, they're happy. And as a business, that's not a workable model. Because you need to keep your client happy. So invariably, every school ends up doing what everybody else is doing, but claim innovative. Please think about this. I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong, but I'm saying, true to your conscience, I don't think we are doing justice. Okay? So if you need to bring in disruptive innovation, you need to partner with external agencies. Why? Because if everything is done by me, I have no judge on quality. If I start collaborating, I know how I have to compare my work and improve my quality of work. And Newton already taught us in grade 8 that if you really want to see the system change, you need an external unbalanced force. So please think about who that external unbalanced force is for your system. So that way, school gets to go forward and move into the path of Newton's second law, which is acceleration. It's very easy there. When you have an external unbalanced force, only then you can see the system change and then move into acceleration. So if we want to make innovative spaces, if we want to make our school innovative, what are the things we need to keep in mind? These are some of my thoughts. Most of you may not agree with this, but bear with me. Can I have the next slide? So this is what we are today, and I feel that the word revolution does not apply to education because most of the managements are averse to that word. So I use the word evolution. It's a step-by-step process. You need to do it. This is what currently our school is doing. Okay? We handle the extracurricular and curricular. Curricular meaning co and curricular all included into it. And either in terms of virtual or physical spaces. We have a wonderful school. No doubt about that. We have wonderful classrooms. Everything is AC. We advertise about AC buses. I don't see how that impacts learning, but still. We advertise about 3 feet swimming pools to 5 feet swimming pools. Wonderful. And then again, Parminder has a problem that they're not focusing on sports. But we have all the best equipments for sports in our school. That's what parents pay for, honestly. And we don't use them. I can show wonderful running tracks in some of the best schools where children have not stepped on it because it's a maintenance issue, right? That's a maintenance issue. So what we believe in as educationists is that side. What we do is on this side. That's what we are doing right now. And I'm saying, at least after today, after now, let's be true to our conscience and say, okay, incremental innovation. Let's start bringing in smaller innovations. I'm sure people are not worried about spending money today. Don't worry about it. At least in cities like Bengaluru, I don't think parents have any issue spending their money, because when there was inflation, some of the schools doubled their fees and children still got admitted into those schools. It works. That I have seen from outside, not an issue. What we are talking about innovative spaces, that means my school itself, if it's an innovative space, has to be, providing certain processes like interdisciplinary learning or interactive learning and integrated learning. When I say interactive learning, I'm not talking about technology interaction only. I'm talking about, are my children interacting with children of other schools in the way they should be? Recently, I was in IIT Delhi attending a conference, and I heard the name of a school, very, very nicely done. Global World International Public School. Has all the names in it that the teacher, the parent would fall for it, and I could charge whatever I want. What was international about it? What was global about it? I have absolutely no idea. Visit the school and you will see it's no different than any other school, except that the board is quite big. Honestly, I think we should oppose that. I mean, if I could do a PIL, I would like to go against these kind of schools which claim they are international and global. They are not. They don't have any global practices. They don't have any international practices in the campus. Children have not even stepped out of their campus. Forget about being international. They're not even local. But we live in this world. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not against all these kind of naming, but I'm only saying that, have we really lost the conscience? Because if we have, then education is not the domain for us. We are talking about educating the next generation. Let's be serious about it. Okay? So what we are looking at, when we say we need to have all these kind of eyes put in